Hi everybody, welcome to our week number 10 Twitch live stream. I was just watching that Royal Caribbean commercial. It made me want to go on a cruise. And there's always that one commercial before we get started. But I hope everyone is doing well. Spring break is next week. It's coming up quickly, which is super exciting. Hopefully you can hear and see me just fine. Everything looks like it's coming through okay on my end. But we're in week number 10. So we have this week and then next week we have spring break. So a couple of comments about last week, and then we'll jump into looking at what we have this week, kind of keeping it short and sweet. We do have a third homework assignment though this week, so I want to make sure that you are feeling good about that and answer any questions that you might have. So scrolling down, we are right here, week number 10. But let's go back for 1 second and just a couple of quick things about week number 9. Last week you did have a discussion where you were coming up with a experiment and then kind of breaking that down and looking at all the elements of it. And I really enjoyed all the cool topics that a lot of you came up with. There were a couple of things related to sleep. There were a few people who had studies related to like mood and things with your phone and memory. Really, really interesting overall. Most of you kind of like related to psychology or close to, but I love it. I hope you picked something that you found interesting, as hopefully that made it more fun. But really nice job. The biggest reason people lost points was just not quite giving me enough. There were a few where I wanted a little bit more. And again, if I keep giving you that feedback of just I wanted a little bit more, try and elaborate in your responses. A few of you also right here on number 2 struggled with identifying your independent versus dependent variable, or talking about how you would break that into levels or conditions and how you would measure the dependent variable. So other than that, really, really nicely done. Don't forget to continue responding to a classmate to get those 2 kind of easy points. And thank you for all the honest feedback on your self-assessments. It seems like most of you are pretty happy with your grade and how you're doing, which is always fantastic to hear. So with that, we'll move on to week number 10. And this week we're looking at chapter 11. We have discussion number 10, and then we do have homework assignment number 3. So let's take a look at those materials together. And as always, you'll want to do 3 things, right? You'll want to read chapter 11 in the textbook. You'll want to read through the lecture for chapter 11 and then watch the lecture video and take notes and pay attention. So if you open the lecture, you can see that this week is just more on experiments. So we're continuing to build on what we've put out there, looking at confounding and obscuring variables. So you have your summary and then some just kind of overview here on this first page, looking at threats to internal validity and zero effects and so on. On the Beyond the Book page, a little bit here, I got a chance to bring in football, which always makes me happy. Looking at regression to the mean, there's something called football or touchdown regression, which I wrote a little bit about here. And then this chart was incredibly helpful in your textbook, and so I thought I would post it on here just to give you access to it in a quick and easy way. Doing a wonderful job of looking at all the internal validity threats and experiments. So I put that in here for you. And then, of course, on the last page, you have all of the key terms that you need to know for the next exam. So here's all of this. If you would like to start studying or preparing now, then you have it all ready to go. So make sure you read through all of that. No videos in there, but just read through everything, watch the lecture video, and let's take a look at discussion number 10. As always, you have my instructions up here at the top and my video, so make sure you watch the video as I'll give you some tips and suggestions. Don't forget to be really detailed in your responses and think about them more like little mini papers or mini essays. And also don't forget that classmate response. That peer response is worth 2 points. And they're a very easy 2 points to get, so you want to make sure that you are getting them. So here's my video. Underneath that, there's a little experiment, and then you're going to answer a couple of questions, kind of building on what we learned last week, but focusing mostly on threats to internal validity. So there's a little experiment here with Professor Beach. And then after you read that, you're going to answer these 5 questions. What is the independent variable and what are the levels of the independent variable? Hopefully this is getting a little easier to do. What is the dependent variable and how is it being measured? Did Professor Beach use a between subjects or within subjects design and explain? Which of the following best describes the design used in the study? Was it a post-test only, pre-test, post-test, repeated measures, or concurrent measures? And explain. Identify and explain one possible threat to internal validity of the experiment, and then explain how it could be possibly addressed or maybe even avoided, which is all the stuff from this week in chapter 11. Discuss the external validity of the experiment. Can Professor Beach's results be generalized, and why or why not? So again, make sure that you really elaborate and show off your knowledge and understanding. When you're ready, you can hit reply. And as you can see, a few people have already answered. So don't forget to also reply to a classmate to get those 2 points. So kind of so far a normal week in the sense of a lecture video, discussion, but you do also have homework assignment number 3. And so I want to take a few minutes to talk about that, make sure you feel all good and ready to go. So if you have any questions as I do go through it, make sure you feel free to ask. So here's the article that you need to read. Physical order produces healthy choices, generosity, and conventionality, whereas disorder produces creativity. So here's the article in the form of a PDF. And once you've read that, then you can do homework assignment number 3. And just like the other 2 that we've done, it's worth 25 points. It's due by this Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. And when you're ready, you'll hit the Start Assignment button up here so you can upload the file that you've done. Definitely save that work just in case, and you can upload that here. So the point of this is for you to really work on applying everything that we've learned so far. You're gaining experience with analyzing an original APA-style journal article. So that is your kind of goal with this. So it should be in total about 2 to 3 pages, standard margins, tight, all the APA kind of standard font, double space, Times New Roman. And with this one especially, because there are so many short questions, make sure that you label and number your questions so I can know which one you're responding to. That would be really, really helpful. So make it really easy for me to see which one you are answering. So what you'll do is you'll read through the article, and then you're going to answer some questions below. And this is obviously due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. So what you'll do is there are 2 experiments in the article, and you're going to answer the same questions for each experiment. And hopefully this will just help you to get more and more familiar with identifying independent and dependent variables and looking at the type of research and the threats to internal and external validity. So here are the questions, again, 1 through 6 for experiment 1, and then 7 through 12 through experiment 2. And they're the same questions, just once for each article. So you'll identify the independent variable and its levels. What is the dependent variable and how is it being measured? Does this study utilize a between or within subjects design? Then you're going to think a little bit about construct validity. What construct are they attempting to manipulate? How do they operationalize it? What are they attempting to measure? Kind of thinking about like what kind of research is it and what are they doing to manipulate and measure and control? You'll think about internal validity. Did they use control variables? Were there any confounds? How could they handle like some things they couldn't control? And then after considering your response, how would you rate the internal validity of the experiment? And then you'll do the exact same thing for experiment number 2. So again, what would be really helpful, since there are 12 questions, make sure you number them, make sure you answer them for each experiment. And remember that this is worth 25 points. So you definitely want to spend a little bit more time on it than you would on a discussion, since it's worth a few more points. So those are the big things for this week. As always, your reading, your lecture video, discussion 10, and then that homework assignment. And here's the article right underneath it that you're using for the assignment. I, of course, will post the recording of this a little bit later, and then I'll give you the extra credit question in a moment. I have a few reminders for you while I wait to see if you have any questions. Oh, yes, it can be longer. It is always fine to give me too much. You just don't want to not give me enough. So 4 pages instead of 3, that's totally fine. I never mind if you go over, you just don't want to be under, if that makes sense. So a couple of quick reminders for you. The first one, I put the reminder in here to double check your subscription status. If you could just do that weekly, that'd be great, especially since it's only good for 30 days. The other reminder for you, and I'll put this in the chat, there is no Twitch live stream next week due to spring break period. Our next Twitch live stream will be on Wednesday, April 2nd at 1 o'clock p.m. All right, so next week is officially spring break, which is very exciting. I hope all of you have a chance to relax a little bit and kind of do some self care and reset for the last few weeks of the semester. We have a nice long break, so we won't do a live stream next week, but we will jump right back into it that Wednesday, April 2nd, when we come back from break. The other thing I'll post in here, let me post the extra credit question so that you can answer that if you would like to. And this is the week number 10 Twitch extra credit question. Right, so I'll put it here in the chat. What are the 3 main threats to internal validity that we reviewed and previously discussed? So what are the 3 main threats to internal validity that we covered before and are reviewing again this week? And make sure that you list and describe them for me. When you're ready to do that, you'll click on extra credit number 10, since we're in week number 10. And then up at the top, you can click on Start Assignment. And in that text box that comes up, type your response. And when you're ready, go ahead and hit Submit for your confetti burst and trophies, right? First place trophies. So definitely take advantage of that this week. And again, I'm glad so many of you have been doing this all semester long. It's a lot of points that are going to start adding up. I think that's everything that I have for you today, kind of short and sweet, as we have definitely settled into our rhythm. I can't believe when I see you next, it will be April, and that will already be in like the second to last month of our semester. So I'll hang out for a few minutes if you do have any questions for me. Otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful week, a really relaxing and nice spring break. I hope you have some extra time to just do something fun or take care of yourself. But I will hang out for a few minutes if you think of anything. Otherwise, you can always email me later if you think of something later on. All right. Thank you so much for those of you who joined me live, and thank you to those of you who are watching this later. I'm going to minimize my video so I'm not staring at myself, but I will hang out for a little bit if you have any questions. Otherwise, thank you so much, and I'll hope to see you all after spring break.